edge of the universe, 400 men and women are probing the immeasurable blackness of space. Their leaders are an Earthman with no fear and a stranger with no heart. Travel beyond our time and solar system, into new galaxies, into worlds beyond your dreams. Star Trek, every week, in color.
A world beyond your dreams, indeed. It's Tuesday, November 28th, 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time. Absolutely time for serious Star Trek. I'm your engineer, Dantron. Your captain is missing in action, sucked into a time warp in some other dimension. Oh, wait a holy cow, just in the nick of time. He's here, but wait, we can't reward his tardiness. First, let's bring in Dr. Johnny Price, PhD. We can tut to Captain Fun first.
Hey. Hello, everyone. I was here on time today, but, no big deal,
Sweet, as usual. But, hey, man, it just wouldn't be serious Star Trek without the captain of this thing.
Oh.
So let's bring him in. Captain Fun. What's happening, Larry?
Apologies. I thought I had timed it correctly. I got back from the Lowell verse. I had some last-minute schedule changes with number 52 on the Lowell Varsity High School football squad. So, sorry.
No worries, Captain. Well, we were a little worried. I was a little worried because Johnny Price, PhD, has a log full of topics for us to talk about. And I looked at them all. I'm like, I don't even know where I'd begin on any of them. I'm glad you're here.
I hope it's Patrick Stewart tarnishing his legacy with not shutting up about Picard. I hope that's on there somewhere.
It is.
Yes.
I think it is.
I got the subspace frequency message about it, I think. The several topics under
Yeah.
Indeed, but John has taken the con. Dr. John has staged a coup.
So I want to start off today with fan favorite Dave Blass, friend of the show, Dave Blass. Production. This just happened. I was sitting here in the green room and I was watching, and this just happened. He tweeted, and I don't know if you guys can. Is it possible to look at this?
Anyway, share your phone, but we don't have them set up.
Anyway, Dave Blass says, "Can someone explain to me how and where the GIFs on Twitter are created and how they are monetized? Like, who put the no on this clip and uploaded it? And are they or Todd Stashwick paid?" And it's a GIF of
good Lord,
this guy.
Well, what a douche! Like a Stashwick.
So the replies
get paid anyway, right?
The replies are all just people like, "Are you new? Like, are you new to the internet?
Are you new? Yes.
By the way, no one put the no on there. That's a screenshot of this captions. Like when you turn captions on to watch a TV show and it says the words.
Right.
Dave Blass is a moron.
Are you telling me
is the key here?
People make Star Trek related content on the internet
like
without getting paid?
Is he really complaining that people are using Star Trek GIFs? Like, what?
Yeah. I don't have anything to say about that guy.
This fucking guy. Anyway,
that reminds me of
literally just happened.
No, but Nicholas Meyer's thing that he's like, I don't mean to be indiscreet, but this show has a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what that is, right? It's like, oh, does Metalis get paid? No. Well, Paramount owns fucking Star Trek, right? So
no
shut up, Dave. Like, that guy's just an idiot.
I don't pay some people.
Sagasag just yells moron into the ether.
Yeah,
that's
anyway. So that was something I noticed while I was waiting in the green room. I was like, "Oh, this is hilarious." Larry's not this. Yeah. So how was everyone's Thanksgiving?
Well, mine was great because I remembered to set my scale back 15 pounds.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
It was fine.
Mine was packed with gravy, like my arteries.
Ooh, I like it. I love gravy. I gotta say, gravy might be my favorite part of Thanksgiving.
Gravy.
As you can tell,
For sure.
I call
yeah,
stuffing. Stuffing's my favorite part.
I do love stuffing.
Yeah.
I just heard of something mind-boggling before. Have you ever put stuffing in a waffle iron?
No.
Yes, and then put gravy on it. Somebody
that sounds amazing. I'm gonna go try that after we're done here.
In fact, I might have to take a break right now, fellas.
I was gonna say we need to take a quick commercial break here.
I gotta take a
go
quick
get
break,
some of these stuffing waffles.
But seriously, I may be in and out throughout the show today. I got a little something going on below deck, so I'll be right back.
Okay. So yeah,
Commodore Price it is. Yeah.
Thanks. Awesome. We hosted over here at 10 Forward, and it went off fantastically. And everything's great. Now I'm eating leftover turkey every day, all day, as everything should be.
It tastes like turkey anyway, right?
I mean, whatever.
I mean, it was a science fiction joke. Call back to Star Trek. And Nicholas Meyer, oh my God, were you?
Yes, let's transition
on that one.
Let's transition into Nicholas Meyer, one of our newsworthy events this week. So just quick setup. Nicholas Meyer's been giving interviews. I don't know if I think it was just one interview, but everyone's been picking it up about. I actually haven't finished the interview, so I'm a little. You might have to expert me on this one, but and everyone's been kind of like deconstructing this interview about how basically he's giving the middle finger to the Discovery people for either rewriting or basically shitting all over his ideas. Take it away, Captain Fun.
I just have a slight bit more shine on that in that everybody is. I couldn't read everything because it seemed like folks were picking the one thing to explode and following that thread because everything he said seemed very straightforward and it's super cagey at the same time.
Yes,
and so what I loved was, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and then he just segued into, and that's why my SETI Alpha 5 thing is a podcast now. And there was a whole bunch of nuance in between, but it was really like nicely done. It was like one of those ninja moves where there's a slight wind and then everybody's heads fall off at the neck. It was crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. If you've ever had the opportunity to listen to the Meyer interview, especially one of the more recent ones, he has a very distinct way of providing information, if we can put it that way, where he's very, very good. I like the way you put it. Direct but cagey is definitely his kind of speaking style. He'll be like, that's like one time he was doing an interview and someone asked him about like profanity in New Trek or whatever. And he said something like, that's an interesting question. That's the most interesting question I've ever been asked. There's something like that where it's just like he's insulting you, but also answering you at the same time. Like he's an interesting guy. Yeah. So what do we think about this? What do we think about Nicholas Myers? Of course, the SETI Alpha 5 thing was always this weird sort of golden goose that they can never quite get. Then it turned into a podcast. I don't even think it's being made at this point. I don't really know what's going on with that.
That's I read Trek movie this morning, but I think it was a couple days ago. I wasn't really up on stuff. I went up north to my father-in-law, so we don't really care about the internet when we're up there. But it seemed like I don't know, something weird's going on. Like he said it's going to be produced, but it wasn't, and it might turn into this, and there's people behind it, and then if that hits, then it's going to be filmed. He said, we'll see what we can do about getting it on film. And I was like,
well, because he doesn't want to do a podcast. Like, he thinks that's the stupidest idea ever. Like,
but I didn't think that Steve Martin and Martin Short would make me give a shit about, crime podcasts either. I still don't, but like it's an into the world. Like when my wife starts talking about something, I go, oh, I see how people in the audience might enjoy that, instead of going, what the hell? like I used to.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe he can do that for Star Trek, which would be
I
awesome,
mean,
right?
that would be pretty awesome to have just a bunch of Star Trek podcasts out there. That would be awesome. Narrative podcasts, that would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, oh, maybe it's being made. It's still in production. It's
Yeah,
still
that's
blah blah. I mean,
Hollywood, right?
how many of these Kurtzman era shows are in production or in the drawing board, or yeah, we put together a writer's room, we're really working hard, and then you never hear of it ever again. I just saw an article this morning that was like, Section 31 movie about to begin pre-production, and it's like, you guys are like, what are you doing? What are we doing here? It's a very weird, it's the golden age. I hate when people say this is the golden age of Star Trek. It's the golden age of fucking reach arounds, I guess.
I would like to see like an office style comedy set in like in the entertainment office where they're like pitching shows and there's rival factions and people in the know.
That would be great. Yeah. I'd also like to see an office style comedy on like a starbase. That would be cool.
That's like that picture that you found and posted of.
Yes.
I was like,
the Cheers guys.
Yeah, I mean, but just do that. Cheers in Starfleet, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God! And what a like endless parade of guest stars you could have, right?
Rest in peace, Kirstie Alley. She would be a great.
I was gonna say,
Star Trek again. Like that would be awesome to see again.
Yeah, it's a real shame she was never in Star Trek.
I guess you got Kim Cattrall, but you can't quite.
Yeah.
No, but now I'm thinking you totally do that. She's the robot bartender, because Paramount has their likeness forever. So there you go, dude. I'll write that motherfucker right now.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Cheers in a starbase, that would be cool. I mean, that was kind of like every plot of DS9 was basically just Cheers in a starbase. So that's fun. Anyway, so this is a good time. Speaking of another one of these shows that allegedly is being in production, we've got the Starfleet Academy show. Tawny Newsome, a friend of our show, Tawny Newsome, who plays Lieutenant J.G. Beckett Mariner on a show called Star Trek Lower Decks. She is actually in the writer's room of Starfleet Academy, and she put out this last week that the writer's room has a couple guys who are called the Canon Cops, CANON Cops, Canon Cops, and that will make sure that the fans aren't outraged when they finally get to see this endeavor. What do you think about that, guys? Will you be outraged?
I think they had defunded the Canon Cops to this point.
Look, didn't I say that when before the first episode of Discovery aired? Oh, we're slavish to the canon. This is the Star Trek for the fans. I'd be fucking surprised if they didn't say that. I would love that marketing, right? Like with the fans going, well, is this going to be to canon? Just like, we're not going to say. Tune into the first one. And then watch the internet burn until your first episode. Mm-hmm. That's what fans need. Some tough love.
No, you're absolutely right, though. They have said this. They've said this multiple times. They said it in Discovery. They said it in Pike. They said it they've said it multiple times that, in the writer's room, we're always checking memory alpha. We're always looking at canon. And it's like, I don't think you guys understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or they'll get so hung up in the details that they completely miss. What's the saying? Forest for the trees or whatever it is. They'll get so hung up and like, well, there's not a memory alpha article on this one topic, therefore we can go into this topic, but they'll miss the fact that it doesn't jive at all with everything else, right? For example, the Gorn. But anyway.
That's what I'm saying. How seriously, can you take it? I mean, is that just copying to the fact that like we didn't have that in the room before and we were willing to just say canon doesn't matter? There is no canon.
Right.
Here's the thing about this that I go nuts about, because the J.J. Abrams movies and then Kurtzman guys, they're all from the same company, right? At first.
Yeah.
And so you think you expect a certain level of Star Trek knowledge. And in the movies, when they introduce Scotty, there's a tribble in a jar, and it's like what you would expect a tribble size to be, right? And they cut back and forth to dialogue, and then they cut back to the first shot, and there's 2 tribbles in the jar. And if you're somebody like us, that was like, oh my God, they understand, right? And then cut to Star Trek Discovery when there was 1 tribble on the jar, and it's like the size of a Volkswagen. And you're like, what the fuck is that supposed to be? And then it doesn't, they don't nod to what tribbles are known for, which was being born pregnant. So,
well, and wasn't the tribble also next to like food?
Yeah, it was like bathing in like a bubble bath of quadrotritic
grain or something. Like,
anyway.
Oh man, what a shitty show that is.
Yeah,
I'm so happy that it's not gonna happen ever again.
But that's why I'm glad Nicholas Meyer's talking, because maybe Brian Fuller start talking, and like then they start saying what really happened, and that's what I want to know. And I don't care about the gossip stuff. Who gives a shit? I'm not in the room. Everybody's got a side to how stuff goes down. But I want to know like why they hounded, the wrong. God, I forget the guy's name. Walter Mosley.
Yeah.
I want to know stuff like that. Like, why did that go down?
Right.
I want to know the politics. I want to know who was holding whose hand. I don't know.
Or I mean, those 2 showrunners.
I don't want to know anything.
Those 2 showrunners got fired for being like abusive to the writers. Like that's what they got fired for. Bears and Meyer, Aaron Bear, whatever his name is.
Guy,
that is a hell of a story that we need to know about. Like, how is that not like just common knowledge at this point?
Isn't that every show ever? They're pretty brutal.
I don't know. But I mean, that's literally what they were fired for, is being abusive to the staff writers. Like, and it's a whole thing. But yeah. So speaking of being abusive to staff writers, Patrick Stewart is still doing interviews because he's not dead yet, and he's talking about how, to his credit, he's talking about how great Star Trek is and how magnificent and life-changing, and it's saved people's lives, and he's so happy to have a minuscule part in the story and all of that. So he's adulating Star Trek and reminding you that he was also in Star Trek. So, it's very, very humble of the Sir Patrick Stewart,
Sigh.
Go away.
This whole thing reminds me of Stan Lee, like at the end of his life. Like somebody's propping him up to get him to keep signing autographs so they can steal the money. And it's like, somebody is got their hand up his ass, right? Or this whole like Picard season 1 thing really happened, and it's Patrick Stewart really has been a robot this whole time. That'd serve us.
I mean, for the story is right that it was like his whims that made that first 2 seasons the unwatchable mess that it was, and that season 3 was everything he swore he did not want to do.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the how it allegedly went was, he had a lot of creative control over season 1 and season 2. It was a lot of his personal backstory informing Picard's backstory, especially the abusive parent thing that was going on. And so I mean, he's singing a different tune now that everybody likes season 3. So singing a different tune there, Patty.
It's such a weird. I mean, I don't know. I'm not that guy, but it seems like a weird hill to die on. Like as you get, I kind of maybe have that in your own lives. there's some family member that kind of was like, okay, here it is at the end, all the secrets go, because who cares, I'm dying. It seems like he's kind of doing that to his legacy of Star Trek, to me personally. But that's how I'm receiving it.
Do you think like the decision to make him into a robot and then sort of forget about it, that was based on like something he wanted, like so maybe they can just do I can just still get paid and they can still make, like, I can just do the voice of some version of me.
I doubt that specific choice was his, but I definitely could see it either way. I do think that he's definitely, I think Patrick Stewart was ashamed, or at the very least wanted to not be associated with Star Trek. It's very much a Shatner-esque turn, I think, for Patrick Stewart. And now that he's come back in this sort of triumphant season 3 and everyone's, lauding him again, now all of a sudden it's like, oh yes, remember me, I've had so much influence in your life, and it's like, hey, did you? I was always a Riker guy. I don't know.
Perfect parallel between those two, because they're both actors at heart and they both think they're better actors than that.
Oh yeah.
Like totally.
Although, and the irony of Patrick Stewart,
I give it to Patrick Stewart, though. I'll give it a little more to Shatner. Had at least multiple successful follow-ups.
I was just gonna say, the irony with Patrick Stewart is that his second biggest role is as Professor X when he's already like 80 years old.
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah, you're a good actor, but like, don't pretend you're fucking Laurence Olivier, That's all I got. Or Kelsey Grammer, Kelsey Grammer's a hell of a captain. I don't know what to tell you guys.
I would make the argument that Kelsey Grammer has had more of an impact since, what we're counting for Patrick Stewart. Like, nobody counts he was in I, Claudius. Way to go. You're talking when he was 45 years old, when he hit the scene in 1987 or 8, I forget. Maybe it was 87.
87.
Yeah.
So
we can do the math there, but he was 45. So from 87 to now is 40-something years.
37 years.
But on all of that and Professor X, but that's not really, he wasn't really making that impact. He was embodying something that already had like a toehold in the
he didn't create Star Trek. Yeah.
No, but it's not even that. I'm like, you give him, he's the captain of the lightning in the bottle. You give him that one, right?
And I'll give him, he had big shoes to fill, and he filled them in a way that was not like being a new macho version of Kirk. He did it in a totally different way, which I like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is a really interesting segue into kind of the one thing Larry and I have been talking about for a while, and we wanted to talk about kind of as a group. Hello, commenters. You are also part of the group, so tell us how much you agree with us.
The main part.
But we want to talk about how you age characters, right? Because I know a lot of us are writers and artists, and we all think about how to age and mature characters over time, and kind of the good ways of doing it and the not so good ways of doing it. And of course, we have two very, very iconic sort of instances of both. We're aging Captain Kirk in The Wrath of Khan, and we're aging Picard in Star Trek Picard. Larry, did you want to sort of say your piece?
I'm not sure I have an overarching thesis of it. I just noticed that the way they handled the original crew's sort of aging seemed graceful to me. And I don't know if it's because they handled it well or because I feel I kind of aged gracefully with my friends in space, right? That like, I felt like, okay, the original crew, those old scientists are my boys, right? And then, okay, now I'm in college and I got to look at those pajama wearing guys, but they put on those naval things and they kind of feel like the upperclassmen. I kind of get where they're going on that. And Kirk's got glasses, me too. I sort of see where they're going, right? And then there's all kinds of great ways they handled that. Like Decker represents, being replaced and aging out. It's all fantastic. And this one, they kind of did the same thing with Picard and crew in the movies, but it didn't really work because it wasn't organic, right? It seemed like corporately mandated that this is where we are in the series of the franchise, where you guys have to do that because maybe we're going to do a Voyager movie. That's button up. And then it all kind of falls apart because it wasn't being led by the story and the needs of the audience, right?
Yeah.
Man,
yeah,
I feel like I need some air after that one. Thank you for obliging me.
Well, I think you bring up a couple good points, and I think there's a couple different directions we can kind of go with this. One of which is this idea of kind of organic aging, right? And the thing with the original movies and the original series is that they never told you how old everybody was, right? So therefore, they didn't need to tell you how much older everybody was. Does that make sense? Where it's like, I mean, yes, we all know Kirk is 33, 34, whatever. We all know that, right? But I mean, just in terms of the character itself, right? It's not like he's young, brash Chris Pine, and then in the movies, he's old, doddering Picard, right? That would be a drastic change, right? And also, the characters in the motion picture era, their character is not old. In other words, like their character is not defined as old. Their character is their character, and they just happen to be 5, 10, 20 years older, right? And they're doing it because they themselves are the same character 5, 10, 20 years older. Whereas I think in a lot of, especially the Picard stuff, especially with my boy Riker, it's very in your face. It's like, yes, I'm telling you how old I am. I think Geordi of all people was probably the most well done in terms of aging the character, because he's not a new character. He's still Geordi. He just happens to be older. Yeah, of course Geordi's running the Fleet Museum. He's a fucking nerd. Of course he is, right? Whereas the rest of them, none of it ever felt organic.
Right.
What do we think about this?
No, I agree 100%. Like, I'm uncharacteristically speechless.
Oh.
Check plus.
I kind of wish Geordi had was still like a virgin, an unmarried virgin.
That would be amazing. Yes, that would have been the only way to improve that. Yes.
Like he just never figured, because some guys never do. Dude, I used to see him work. I come into the comic book store, I'd see these guys that are just, it never works out for them. Geordi could have been that guy.
It's true.
Here's a kind of a tangential question, but name me a successful science fiction property of any kind where sex is a component of it. The answer is nothing, because sci-fi is 100% escapist entertainment. And that's why all the incel boys like that, because look, I'm escaping them. I'm not getting blowjobs right now. So
true.
The second anything about sex comes into it, you reminded them of what they are escaping from. And it doesn't work. So stop it. I hope Geordi boned anything he wanted. I'm not judging where he put it, but I hope it was a lot, because that guy earned it.
But I just mean, it's not like that would have been out of left field. They did have episodes devoted to his social anxiety.
Oh yeah.
And falling
infamously bad at women. Infamously bad. Yeah. Cool. All right, well, we solved that problem.
Toodles has come over and says whatever. She agrees with me because you guys don't feed her.
Hollywood big shot Rick Austin chimes in.
Oh, there he is.
I think starting with TMP, they were organically owning the crew aging. Shatner being an admiral, not knowing the Enterprise. Yes. I think it was like a theme. They really made it. It was thematic. I was thinking that part of it, and I'd have to compare the numbers, but I go, one part of it is how long it was since the last time you saw them. But it's also how our conception of aging has changed since that time as to what you think is old or not old, kind of. So Yeah, I mean, you can't get away with putting Patrick Stewart on screen though and not getting into like he's really fucking old, guys. He's super decrepit.
Well, our boy Carl Martin, who did the sets for Picard, I'm not telling tales out of school. He put this on his Facebook. That was part of the component of designing it, is you couldn't have stairs on it was hard to design the bridge parts of their little shuttlecraft thing because he had to have ramps to get places. He just couldn't do stairs. Like
Picard did.
Yeah, the first 2 seasons. So that's just like that's what you're dealing with when you have to have that guy be.
Yeah, it's hard to lean on. I mean, they could lean into that, but it's hard to do that for the lead of your series to have him be somebody who's not
right.
I think 2 good points there, Dan. I think one is the conception of aging, right? Because Patrick Stewart looks old to begin with, right? He's bald, he's got white hair, right? Even when he's in his 40s, the dude looks fucking old, right? Yeah, so like he has almost this sort of like timeless, or rather ageless sort of thing where he looks the same for like 40 years, right? But they waited too long to do the reboot, right? So now, as Philo T. Fuzzworth points out very correctly, his voice is not his voice anymore. He sounds like an old man. He moves like an old man because he is an old man, right? The other problem here is that they redefined Picard in the movies as an action hero. And this actually really started after like Best of Both Worlds. They really started to move more toward Picard as like an action hero. I know everyone remembers the famous speeches and the diplomacy and all that, but there's some real like action heroes sort of episodes. Gambit comes to mind. It's a 2-parter. And like especially the movies. I mean, he's swinging through engineering, chopping Borg head off left and right, murdering people, and it's like he's getting laid in Insurrection, and it's like, dude, they're trying to make the character of Picard like 30-year-old Kirk, but it's played by 60-year-old Patrick Stewart.
Totally agree.
So it's like, so when you're doing this reboot 20 years later, where do you go with it? You have 2 options. You can keep doing the action hero stuff, or you can do back to original Picard, boring diplomacy stuff. And they chose action hero, but now you're doing with 80-year-old Patrick Stewart, not just 60-year-old Patrick Stewart.
How stoked is he though that in his second coming he got a guy like to be Professor X? He gets to be in a wheelchair in the movies. You know what I mean?
Right. They should have done that.
Be handicapped.
They should have just done that for Picard. Stick him in a goddamn beeper suit. Stewart too old. Even in Shatner's last appearance in Generations, he is still virile, chopping wood. He never lost his swagger, right? He's talking about banging Antonia up in the barn, So yeah, Shatner has it. Whatever it is, Shatner has it.
That's what I mean. Why did they never? I always assumed they would have went with sort of Riker and given him more of the swagger and let Picard be the elder statesman and try to balance. I don't know.
Well, and it started the series. TNG starts off like that, where Riker is he's getting laid left and right. I mean, Riker fucking bangs half the galaxy in season 1 and 2, but then again, there's a transition where Picard and Data start to become the focal points of the show, and that really takes off in the movies. And then, of course, in Picard, they're basically bionic lovers by the time we get to season 2 of Picard. So I don't know. I don't really know what. I think Shatner benefited from having been the right age with the right character, and Picard sort of. The flaw was the wrong age for that character, and it kind of just didn't work. That's kind of how I would summarize it. What do you think out in the comments? Let me stare at the camera. What do you think out in the comments?
Hector gives props to the Shat's toupee for some reason.
Ugh.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I watched the Deadly Years the other day. Rick was chatting up with Sagasag, I think, something about Tubi or Pluto a couple days ago or before Thanksgiving, and I checked out what they were doing, and I ended up seeing I don't know. I ended up watching Deadly Years, And I was trying to figure out if that was Shatner's real hairline at the time, weighed by the fact that the Greg Gine thing just came out where one of his real toupees was for sale. And I saw pictures I'd never seen of Shat's toupee, right? It comes way down. And so it's like more of a wig instead of covering just the front, which is what I always thought a toupee was.
Wigs
right?
can be magical, what they do. Look at what happened to Stan Lee. Stan Lee got younger over time. He switched to that wig and it just changed. He changed.
He got younger over time. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, Shatner's still doing like I mean, we're watching all sorts of stuff. He pops up everywhere. He's in commercials. He did Celebrities on Mars, whatever that was called. I mean, you know, and he's bopping around. Stars on Mars. That's right. Yes.
But that's when you were comparing him with Patrick Stewart and you were saying Shatner's got it. I literally thought that, and I've been working on not interrupting, and I'm thinking, you know, if I have a good idea, I'll put it out. It'll still be a good idea later. That
just interrupt.
Fucking Shatner went up on he's 92 years old. He went into space. Can you see Patrick Stewart, the guy who can't go upstairs doing that?
You're nailing it, Larry. Shatner's older, right?
I mean, yeah, by like 15 years.
And I'll bet you he could still pull off playing Captain Kirk, and he could pull a little twinkle in his eye, and he'd have a little bit of swagger.
Oh yeah, dude! You put him out with a little cane, suede jacket, little 3/4 shot, turn it around. That's all we need, Bill.
Yeah, totally.
Here's a sandwich. Come here, wear this, say that. God bless you, sir.
Two things. One, Rick Austin says the greatest special effect in A-Trek is Shatner's toupee underwater in Star Trek 4. I've literally never thought of this. I've never thought that he was wearing a toupee in Star Trek 4 underwater. Now I need to go rewatch the whole movie. I'll be right back. Two, you know who is going to be 80 years old and still have that twinkle in his eye and still make you feel like Star Trek? Jonathan fucking Frakes.
Oh, absolutely.
That guy,
absolutely.
He's got the Shatner. He's got the Shatner.
Shatner.
He's the guy I want to see 20 years later. What the fuck he's up to.
I agree. The only thing I worry is big guys don't live long. I know it. Like tall people, taller guys, like they're just known.
What did I do to you, Dan? What?
I think about it a lot as a taller guy.
I don't care because I'm worried about who's the Star Trek character that's the new Riker, though, right? There's no young guy coming up. Like you have Shatner and then Riker. You even saw it in the old days. Maybe not season 1 right away, but definitely by season 3, it's like, this guy's the Shatner of this show, right? There's no
forgetting about a little man.
Jack Ransom.
Yeah, that's what they're trying, but there's no like you need it to be organic, man. And you know who I think it is? As God is my witness, you'll know I'm right. Fucking Boimler.
I knew you were gonna say it.
No. No.
Yeah. Who's the most Star Trek character going on right now? Oh, fucking Nurse Chapel. Okay.
Well,
it's not Jack
Boimler. Who do you want to be captaining a ship right fucking now?
No,
that's what I think is when you say who's the Shatner, right? Who you want Captain Kirk, you can't have him. Well, you want Riker, you can't have him. I want Captain fucking Boimler right now. Take the center seat.
Okay. All right.
Who in all of Star Trek? Who would you do that with? You know.
Well, my objection to that is they're not writing Star Trek characters. So.
Who's the helmsman girl? The helmsman girl.
Yeah, Rios.
No. Oh, Ortegas.
Ortegas.
If you need live action, I'll take Ortegas.
Yeah, Ortegas
because she's the Star Trek girl. She's the Shatner of that show.
Yeah.
Which put that in your pipe and smoke it, a little Pike fanboy.
Yeah, poor Pike, man. Pike.
they emasculated him.
They fully did. They really. I want to see it. I think it's just that because he couldn't be in the second season, we just didn't see enough of him, and they made him so weak in the first season, and now we haven't. He's got to have a macho comeback.
Yeah, he's got to come back and be the captain, right? This isn't we have to use gendered language because that's how English works. But this isn't a gender thing, right? He has to just be the captain.
But that is the cliffhanger, right? Like, can he do his job?
Right? Yeah, and nothing in season 2 tells you that he can.
Yeah.
which is awful because he's Captain Pike. I mean, he's supposed to be, this great captain. Anyway, yeah, Ortegas is awesome. She would be the only person I would say, because again, I don't know if this got cut off, but they're not writing Star Trek characters. So of course there's no characters that are gonna be able to do it because they're not writing any. I mean, in Lower Decks you have a couple, but again, that doesn't really count for this discussion because it doesn't.
Hey, so listen though, we're this is like live action Howard Stern show about Star Trek at this point, and the three of us dopes in about 25 seconds went from like Boimler, I don't know, I can't really think, to who it is, Ortegas, and everybody went, fuck yeah, that's your Shatner. And we're just idiots, right? The people that run the goddamn show can't do that in a meeting, much less figure it out in 10 or 15, 20 seconds. And this is what flabbergasts me. And that's why I love that Nick Meyer quote so much about, that's a, show that has too many cooks.
Yeah.
I like Battle-Scarred Mabenga though. I think he's pretty cool. I like Karate Doc.
Karate Doc.
He's more your Spock guy though, right?
Yeah.
He
kind of is, huh?
He's the guy you count on in a pinch.
It's funny because they got Spock there, and it's like,
He's
no, now
not
they got
Spock.
Yeah, they got karate.
That's so funny. I was just talking at Thanksgiving with my family about another Paramount Plus TM product, the new Frasier, and how it's just the same show. They've just moved the archetypes around. Like instead of the dad in the leather, old cop, it's his son is the young firefighter. They just move the things around. Same fucking show. And I just realized they just did that to Star Trek with the, oh shit, yeah, Ortegas is the Shatner. Right. Mabenga is the more Spock guy you lean on when you're selling Kivas and Trillium. You want those two characters together. You know what I mean? I don't know. Man, at some point, talking about Star Trek is going to sound like the Children of Tamar. The last 10
his
seconds,
arms wide.
Right, exactly. All right, whatever, Larry. Shut the hell up.
What I was going to say is
the normal guys.
At some point, the algorithm is going to reach somebody, and everyone at Paramount is going to be like, "Oh my god, these guys have it all figured out," and we're all going to get big fat checks to fix Star Trek, and live happily ever after. That's definitely my. I think that's going to happen.
I will say right now,
I will work very cheaply.
Whatever they offer, I will do it for half, except so I can write the book about it after.
Yes, I'll do it for half because I'm poor.
Well, right, but no, I assume we team up on the book, right?
Right.
Like, here's what really happened. Here, those two idiots always want to say what really happened. Here's what really happened to them.
Yeah,
they're assholes wide, something like that.
Yes. That would be amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to run Star Trek one day.
Make it happen.
Make it so.
Approved.
Yeah, I just really don't like Patrick Stewart. I really don't. I don't like Picard. I don't like that's not true. I do like Picard. I don't like action hero Picard. And there's way too much action hero Picard in later Picard, and I don't like it. If he's gonna sit on the bridge being the ultimate manager, that's fine. Be good at that, and you're fine.
I think it works better in a ensemble capacity.
Yeah,
I can't think of what's a starring role that Patrick Stewart has done. I mean, probably on stage, Shakespeare or whatever. He's the lead, but
I guess I don't know.
I don't know that he can carry a whole thing just with the gravitas, and now with his voice gone and
no
ramps.
And I'm not trying to make fun of the guy for getting old. I mean, everybody gets old, but
wow, this is starting to sound kind of harsh.
I'm just saying.
I don't like age discrimination is a big thing. My wife is like, man, we should have age limits for who can run for president, who can do this and that. I go like, I don't know. I think it totally depends on the person. You see, some people can be spry and with it in their 80s and be great and funny actors and deliver, but some can't.
I'd vote for Shatner at 90. I would not vote for Patrick Stewart at 80. That's all I'm saying.
I've never seen a Shatner performance where I said he's too old, he's not with it anymore.
No.
Like
whatever he's shoving into his body is working.
Can you imagine? Like, that's where the bar is even, and Patrick Stewart can't clear it. It's like, dude, all you really have to do is just fucking stand there and make us believe that you believe what you're saying. And that should be cool because you've been a legendary actor all these years.
Yeah.
Just go, man, this apple tastes great. Just say that. Just stand there. And Shatner would be like, this apple. Yeah. And you would be like, I've had an apple like that. Yeah. And Patrick Stewart's like, is he there? Like, you know, and it's
Patrick
sad.
Stewart's never seen an apple before.
It's
That's the impression
sad,
he gives.
Man.
Yeah, it is sad. And again, not trying to besmirch the man. Everybody gets old. I'm certainly not doing that. But in terms of evolving and aging a character, right? They did it all wrong with Picard, and they did it all right with Shatner.
So if you go Roddenberry era is original Star Trek, and then what were those two guys? Who were the big Star Trek? Well, Britt Berman was it?
Berman and Michael
Berman era,
yeah.
Of TV Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so now there's this era. And do you think the eras kind of they sort of die off, like the interest gets lost, and then you got to wait a little while, and then a whole new era has to
wait. Ron Moore too. We can't forget him.
No, definitely not. Ron Moore is very important.
Well, you were saying Michael Pillar, Rick Berman.
Yeah.
You got to throw in Ron
Moore. Well, and even Brandon Braga. I mean,
yes, especially
Brandon
Braga had an era for real.
Yeah. But it is that one continuous 20 years.
You know what I mean? That's what I think of. That's what I was saying when I'm in an office comedy set there. And whatever facility Star Trek comes out of, where there's a president of Star Trek and there's a few vice presidents of Star Trek, and they're pulling together, there's office politics and factions and whatever. That's what I imagine is going on over there, because the output is wildly varying they clearly made that pivot, and somebody won and somebody lost in that office kind of political race of what's the Star Trek fans are going to actually like.
I think Kurtzman lost. I think that's one of the ironies of all of this, and I don't know that for a fact, obviously, but they basically
that way.
They basically promoted him out of Star Trek, and it's easier with Star Wars. You can see Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni, right? There is no Dave Filoni equivalent in this little dynamic, so I don't really know all of the names of the players moving in, but it sure seems like Kurtzman got promoted out of kind of, because the backlash was so negative, and we're part of it. I mean, we're all part of the negative backlash. So
can I tell you a little something about how that writers thing works at the writers level? I just read what happened to this writer named Patty Lynn, who was part of some show. Doesn't matter. It's just she was talking about how the creator comes in and does a great pilot, and that's what the show is. The network buys the show on, right?
Right.
Then he hires his best friend to do the follow-up to get, because he knows the vibe of the show. That starts to tank.
Right.
The network loses interest. They get a sacrificial person to come in. His friend has to go help with this other thing. And with the thought that person knows they're getting fired. And I don't think they did that on purpose to Kurtzman, but I think that's what happened. Where it's I don't know if I love to hate that guy, but it's because that his head was the highest up on the castle coming over the parapet. You know what I mean?
And he was the one saying stupid shit in interviews.
In public, right? That's what I mean. It's he's the guy whose name we knew, so you're the guy responsible. So you take the hit, and then they kind of didn't realize that was bad news for everything.
Yeah,
and so,
and I'm sure all the stuff that got responded to the worst, and that they pivoted away from, was the stuff that he was like, "Yes, this is not going to be like the old Star Trek. This is going to subvert those expectations. This is going to be downbeat and depressing." everything that you wanted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Star Trek show, right?
Yeah.
And lengthy. Don't forget lengthy. Like really got to watch whole seasons
Yeah.
to understand what's going on. And they course corrected on that, right? So,
I mean, allegedly, you know, Akiva Goldsman is still in charge of Pike. You know, ironically, the dynamic you're talking about, Larry, that's what happened with Picard. That's 100% what happened with Picard. They started off, it started to tank, so they brought in other people, and then everyone was just kind of like, okay, we're done with this. You over there, you take over now. And it was Terry Matalas, and I mean, he basically says as much, and he's like, yeah, no one was paying attention to me, so I could do whatever the fuck I wanted. It was pretty awesome. So I just made Star Trek, you know. So whether you like season 3 or not, I mean, it's certainly the best of the Picards for a whole variety of reasons.
Which, man, if it hadn't been for the trying to foist 7 of 9 and Jack Crusher's new like that as like a new thing we're supposed to really be excited about. Like they put so much time into that's almost like the mission of that whole season was to say, like, this is Star Trek now. And
yes,
I
agree 100%.
It's so funny. They're still on Twitter. They're still talking hashtag Star Trek Legacy. And it's like, dude, no, give it up. Give it up. Yeah. It's the same with like the Orville fans, dude. I love the Orville. I will go to war for the Orville, but there's no Orville season 4. Just stop tweeting about it. Everything's fine. Yeah. You know, you can move on and just rewatch season 3. But yeah,
like, I would like to return to that world, like with to the next generation, older. Like those characters were pretty cool.
Yeah,
but everything else was so gross, like really repellent. It was so bad. Like that was the thing. Like I never even considered watching Picard season 1 and 2 because it was so repellently nothing. And then season 3 came along and had the trappings that, you know, fly by night Danny is looking for in the Star Trek.
Right.
To see a ship and stuff.
Yeah, ships. What a weird idea. You want to have ships in any. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting topic that we were talking about offline. So I want to see what you guys thought. Anyone in the chat have anything further to say? Yeah, Steve, you can absolutely correct. People definitely think that hashtags will get them things, and this is not the way it's gonna work.
I love how you put that.
It's people. Well, because like what was that show? Shit, my dad says. That's not the world we live in anymore. You can't just do hashtag shit my dad says and it becomes a sitcom. You know, so
starring William Shatner.
Yeah, no kidding.
He was the dad. So we're still on Star Trek.
I would love to see Orville: The Next Generation, because again, that's another show that it's not coming back. But I love that whole world building they did, and I would love to see that.
I loved Orville so much, but it's like Avatar 2. Like, I loved Avatar in the theater. I saw it 10 or 15 times. 3D was fucking great. Okay. I bought a 3D TV when those were cool, and that was my first one. And we watched that 4 or 5 times. My kid made a Navi dictionary. We fucking love that first one. Have we seen the second one? No.
You haven't even seen it?
Who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. So
I've never heard anyone express any passion like that, though, for the first one like that.
No, see, if you see it in 3D, man, that is the fucking shit. But that's the thing. It has to. We never once watched it flat. You see it 3D in the theater, and then your father tells you this is the most fucking incredible 3D movie ever. To the point where we're buying a 3D TV, son, and this is the only thing we're buying. And then we watch that like 5 times before he goes, "Okay, I get 3D TV now. What else you got?" And I'm like, "Let me introduce you to the MCU." Right?
Never make a movie so that he's shifting unit.
Boo-hoo! Can I just finish this because this is part of my soul? You made me rip most of the Band-Aid off. 3D TVs only last about 5 years, and they just are. And by the end of that was the cycle that they fucking predicted. It's like there's going to be people like Larry Young at the just end of the bottom of the bell curve. He's going to buy that fucking TV where it makes sense for him. It's a little much, but his wife loves him and she can talk her into it. and then fuck him because that's only 5 years. His TV's gonna break. We stopped making stuff in 3D. So that was just a piece of
That's
junk.
what I was gonna say. Is 3D done again? Is 3D done?
Dude, it was done around 2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway,
it was dead
sorry.
for me when I saw that
I'm all right now.
Scorsese one he did, the kids movie that he did that had Borat in it. I don't know if you remember that one.
No.
It stunk.
It's stunk. Okay, so we got a few minutes left here, and want to Dan and I were thinking that we should ask the audience for help in kind of the future of the show. Right, we've been doing this for about 2 years, I think. Something like that.
Yeah. I think.
And so we're thinking of shaking things up here moving forward, but we want to get your guys' opinions on, what we can do moving forward, any recurring topics he wants to talk about. I mean, you pretty much know we like to talk about Star Trek on this show, so we'll keep doing that, What do you guys think? What do you think, Larry?
I think that's an awesome idea. You know what I think? Maybe it's just this leftover Thanksgiving turkey and stuffing, but I'm thankful that we have an audience to ask those questions to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
I have
right on, everybody.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think the one thing we could do that could really help, would be opening up the Facebook group that's currently a private group and turn it into a public group. And I know that can cause a lot of like spam issues and you got to manage it and everything like that. But that's the only way I see like getting like Star Trek people to want to see the show, like to even have it put in front of them.
Yeah. It sounds more appearances by Toodles. I like that.
I love
that group. Who owns the page? Who owns the Facebook group? Because I know I can't do it.
The Guardian of Forever.
It's either Larry or it's you. It's one of you two bugs.
Yeah, I think
it's one of us. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a Starfleet question, right?
Like, I'm gonna have to kick that up to operational command. I don't know.
It's Mimi or it's Walker behind the scenes. Pulling the strings.
Yeah. So anyway, if you guys have any ideas, that would be good.
Wow, that was really heartfelt until the end.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. I am the most frequent bringer of non-Star Trekness onto this show, but only when we don't have stuff to talk about. So when we have a nice full agenda, like John bringing Star Trek topics, because all my bandwidth that I have to offer this show is in the special effects and the thumbnails and the scheduling and all that. I don't have much more bandwidth to like produce content. And we gained up over 100 subscribers this month from a 30-second video of destroying a well in my front yard. We got like hundreds, thousands and thousands of views, so much engagement, made actual money off of this clip from nothing. And it's like, I think I know people that stumble across this show, enjoy and watch it. We've seen the random tweets out there.
It's true.
We have an audience in England. I've received email from people in the UK that are like, Dan, we like your stuff. We like your show. We like Larry. Not much about John.
No, me. I don't like Britain, so I don't know what to tell you. They can feel it. They can feel it.
Larry's heavily involved in the content. But I'll say that I think opening up the Facebook group and trying to get more people in that, posting memes and stuff in that, and just having conversations and having fun in there. And then every once in a while, our show shows up and people watch it and enjoy it and start subscribing. That's organic growth to me. And
any of you out there in the social media world, feel free to talk to me and Dan. Larry doesn't do social media, but the two of us are always on the Twitter.
So that's what you folks out there can do. If you want to share a link to your friends, if you want to make a clip of the show or anything like that and share it with your friends, please feel free. That would be helpful to us here. Spread the word and the love of serious Star Trek.
Yeah.
We'd
So
appreciate
that's good.
it.
I think this is a good episode.
I agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I
This
think,
is a good time.
oh, wait a minute. That sound.
Turkey time.
Oh, wow.
Sound means we're out of time. It's time to stop begging our customers or our viewers for super chats or whatever. Just like and subscribe. Keep watching this thing. Keep chatting in the chat. We love you. We'll keep being here. We'll keep coming back week after week, I think, till we run out of stuff to talk about. Either way, we'll be here. What do we do it? Tuesdays, right?
I don't know.
I will never run out.
I don't know what
of
day
stuff
it
to
is.
talk about Star Trek.
Larry's never. Cap
will
Fun's never
never-
run out.
I
So-
will never run out.
Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time. But Cap Fun, why don't you tell it to us? Where is that thing? Where's it happening?
On the internet.
Which
Nice.
one today? Oh, wait a minute. I don't know. Wait, Larry. I don't know. Wait a minute. I didn't choose yet. I don't want to just.
I wager 400 quattros on the newcomer.